We do have more power than ever before to drive real solutions and to better the world around us, but it starts small. It starts with doing something, not trying to do everything. We are here because we recognize the immense challenges our world is currently facing, and we understand the monumental amount of action it's going to take in order to reverse this crisis. But we are also here to drive new thinking and to inspire others into action. With corporations, media, big tech starting to pay real attention to us, we now have the momentum to define the rest of the century. I'd like to invite you all to take a moment and think about what led you here today. Your activism origin story, if you will. Because there must have been a critical moment where you saw an opportunity to make a difference. A moment that pushed you off the sidelines and into action. For me, that moment happened when I was 10 years old. I was a kid growing up in Los Angeles, and I was lucky enough to live close to the beach. I always loved the ocean, and I would try and spend as much time there as I could. I felt that the ocean breeze, the warm sand, and the rocky cliffs broadened my horizons and made me feel like I was getting out into the world. At that point in time, my dad and I would often go surfing on the weekends, and one week there was rain in the forecast. And he said that we shouldn't go surfing because the way the drainage system is set up in Los Angeles, all the pollution from the city washes down into the ocean. So if you're out on the water that day, you risk getting an infection. And as a kid experiencing the world for the first time, this was a huge moment for me. You know, to me, the ocean seemed like this infinite thing. And to think that humanity had such an impact on something so vast was mind-blowing. Up until that moment, I really had yet to connect how my actions could impact the world around me. How something that happened inside my community could have ripples far beyond itself. And from that point on, I started asking my parents more questions about the environment. And together we would watch documentaries like Racing Extinction and An Inconvenient Truth, among many others. And I remember feeling overwhelmed by the sheer complexity and scale of the crisis, and feeling this intense desire to do something about it. And as it happens, coinciding with this, I was amassing a following on social media. And so, it really seemed natural that I would share what I was learning. If there's a fire, you sound the alarm. And I thought, if nothing else, I could do that. So on social media, I began following environmental organizations and speaking about issues such as endangered species and single-use plastics. And I was bombarded with a daily supply of what was happening, how it affected the world, and what could be done about it. Admittedly, I wasn't an expert on environmental science, but I could share their findings to anyone who would listen. Eventually, my work caught the eye of the United Nations, and at 14, I was honored to be named a UN Environment Goodwill Ambassador. As you can imagine, it's tremendously exciting to get to work on behalf of the UN. It also opened doors for me to represent a youth perspective at international events. And that same year, I had the opportunity to attend the Illegal Wildlife Trade Conference, the UN 2030 Youth Climate Summit, and the California Global Climate Action Summit. I was no longer just a kid who was sharing stuff on his social media. I was on CNN. It gave me a global platform. Recently, as mentioned before, I partnered with Envision Racing and created an initiative called Trees with Aidan. Our collective goal is to inspire 1 million climate action pledges. For each pledge taken, Envision will plant a mangrove tree entirely for free. And in just 2 years, we've planted over 200,000 trees and counting. So it's amazing to think about, because it's 200,000 people who are stepping forward and making a difference and aiding in the fight against climate change in a small but a very meaningful way. And it's now been over a decade since that rainy day in Los Angeles. And I'm grateful that I still have a platform that I can continue supporting climate action. In many respects, I'm still doing the same thing that I did when I was a kid. I'm just a messenger. It's something that I feel I can and should do with the platform that I'm lucky enough to have. So, if I can help even just one person to feel like they also can make a difference in the face of all of this anxiety over the state of the world, then to me, I think it's worth it. I've been there, and I know what that anxiety is like. When you look at the scale and complexity of the problems that our world is facing, it's going to be overwhelming from time to time. It's very natural. When I think of climate anxiety, I'm reminded of this scene from the movie Interstellar, and I'm seeing this massive tidal wave rising up like a skyscraper. And the wave isn't just, the climate crisis itself. It's my own anxieties, it's my fears, it's my questions about the future. But we are all watching that wave together. We're all fighting, we're all feeling that same anxiety. And if we can go through it in the right way, we can take that shared anxiety and turn it into a force that can push the world in the right direction. So how do we do that? How do we stay engaged and also optimistic in the face of challenges that are this urgent and this complicated? What do we say to people who tell us that the problem is just too complex, that it's too much for one person to make a difference? We say it's true. One person can't do everything, but we all have the ability to do something. I think we need to nurture a mindset that maximizes our individual backgrounds for the purpose of making communal progress. In other words, think big, start small, and take a whole lot of people along for the ride. Now, as I've said, I am not an expert, but there are some thoughts that I can share based on my own experience that may be helpful for you wherever you are in this journey. So at the risk of, sounding a bit like a corporate motivational speaker, here are my tips and tricks to optimize your workflow. It first starts with working with your own wiring instead of worrying about your limitations. Everyone is wired a little differently, and they're going to approach problems in very different ways. I have ADHD, and I tend to get very focused on things. Because of that, I know I need simplicity in order to be efficient. So I start small. I clearly define my expectations at the outset of something. I compartmentalize tasks, and I set deadlines. And breaking things down like that helps me to stay on track. Because when you focus on all the small things that you can do, instead of the larger things that you can't, all of a sudden those goals feel realistic and achievable. Having the right tools also is extremely helpful. For me, the most powerful tool at my disposal has been social media. It's not perfect, but it is an incredible vehicle to amplify a message, to reach new audiences, and to build a community out of a shared passion. Now, for you, that tool might be technology or a new way of thinking. It might be a space that inspires you to do your best work. But one of the most powerful mechanisms for efficiency is collaboration. Collaboration will help alleviate your anxiety. It allows you to just focus on what you excel at. And in turn, it keeps you from spreading yourself too thin. So I urge you to find a team. Here at One Young World, you all have a unique opportunity to team up with peers from around the world. Here and everywhere else, I urge you to look for people who are doing great work and team up with them, even if their area of expertise is completely different from your own. You have no idea how your respective skill sets or point of views may complement each other. Take, for example, my partnership with Envision Racing. Envision can plant hundreds of thousands of trees, something I obviously couldn't do alone. But I do have the ability to share our vision to a larger audience. And these complementary skills work in tandem toward a common goal of planting a million trees. Don't just look for partners, though. You need to look for people who are better than you at something and learn from them. Now, they don't have to be notable figures, just people who are really good at what they do. Personally, a lot of my inspiration comes from musicians I look up to. For example, in 2008, John Mayer gave this amazing seminar on songwriting. And as a young musician, I would just obsessively watch these videos over and over again, each time pulling new information out of it. And I would take these concepts and break them down into their simplest form, and I would see what else they would apply to. Now, I'm sure a lot of you already have mentors and people that you look up to, but I urge you to continually seek out greatness, to be interested in the world. Different people are going to approach problems very differently, and you will find that their philosophy may just revolutionize the way that you do things. Finally, I am reminded of a quote by actor Jason Alexander. He says, "Be gentle with yourself." Given the urgency of these global crises, there will be times that you feel frustrated with yourself. You'll think that, I'm not doing enough. I should be further along by now. I'm making enough progress. And in this moment, your expectations are far beyond your means. But you have to remember to be gentle with yourself, to take a step back, to process, to breathe, to regain that objectivity. We all know good things take time, and that you're going to stumble and fall. That's just part of it, and it's often how you get better. You don't have to be perfect, but every day, if you're taking a step forward, you're doing okay. We're very lucky to have people in this world like you fighting to make it a better place. I'm incredibly excited to see what you all do next.